welcome to this ET Now special. I'm Nayantara Rai. Over the next 30 minutes, we're going to get you the best from the Economic Times Global Business Summit. Trust me, it doesn't get better than this or bigger than this. It is an A-star lineup that includes the former Vice President of the United States, Dick Cheney, Metal Baron Anil Agarwal, ace investor Ajay Piramal, and many, many more. The former Vice President of the United States, Dick Cheney, was one of the speakers at the Economic Times Global Business Summit. It was here that the former Vice President said Russia definitely interfered in the American elections and that tantamounts to being an act of war. As far as globalization goes, according to Dick Cheney, it's actually terrorism and security that are the bigger threats. We also got him on Trumponomics, and this is good news for IT companies, with Dick Cheney convinced that industry and American companies will prevail over the Trump administration. Here's our exclusive interview with the former US Vice President.
I think he has expressed the view that in some of the past negotiations by previous administrations, he believes the United States didn't get as good a deal as they should have gotten. And that as a result of that, our economy has suffered to some extent. He clearly feels strongly about American companies that relocate overseas, hire cheaper labor, and then import that product, whatever it is, cars in Mexico, back into the United States. And he's intervened in some of those transactions, made it clear that he wants them to build that new factory in the United States instead of elsewhere. At this stage, I don't see that as fundamentally undermining the whole proposition. We'll see as we go forward. I don't think, if you look at the United States and all that we benefit in terms of our access to markets and the access of others to our markets, it's very clear that we benefit long-term from those developments.
If I may just move to India for a bit, and considering Mr. Modi had a great relationship with President Obama, and there was a considerable bonhomie there, what are the areas of partnership that India and US can explore under the new administration? And more importantly, H-1B visas or immigration issues have been a big point of, or visa issues have been a big point of concern for some of our big corporates. What's the way forward? Do you believe this is a rhetoric that will die down? This is a rhetoric that's going to be taken care of because of the talent crunch that perhaps exists in the US? Or is this for real and people need to brace up for new business models?
There's a very, very strong lobby for the H-1B program in the United States on the part of corporate executives who benefited from it. And I think we can make a very clear case that we ought to expand the program, that it is vital to our economic success going forward. One of the things I believe that's happened in the past is we've had in recent years a debate about a new piece of legislation on immigration, is that the advocates of getting legislation passed have wanted to tie it to an expansion of the H-1B program legislatively. And so that the advocates of reforming the immigration program use that as a lever, if you will. It hasn't passed up to this point, partly because we haven't gotten a bill yet that could be agreed to with respect to the total immigration set of issues. So it'll still be around a debate, but I think the lobby is very, very strong on H-1B visas, and I wouldn't be at all surprised by what it will. I think it's strong enough that the administration will have to pay attention to it.
Well, that's the former Vice President of the United States, Dick Cheney, being very candid about all that's threatening the global economy and globalization in particular. While we're talking about globalization, let's talk about an Indian entrepreneur who's dreaming of owning one of the world's largest mining and commodity firms to compete with the likes of Rio Tinto. I'm talking about Anil Agarwal and Vedanta. Just a few days ago, Anil Agarwal announced that he's going to buy a 13% stake in the mining giant Anglo-American that also makes the De Beers diamonds. This is Anil Agarwal's second attempt at buying a stake into Anglo-American. Here's my exclusive interview with Anil Agarwal.
Hindustan Zinc was almost 5 years reserve when we took over. We brought in the technology. Any of the asset, if you look at, every asset we have taken is all where the marginal asset. Whether you take Hindustan Zinc, we have created 10 times more production, 40 years reserve, brought in the technology. You will be surprised, when it was a public sector, we have almost 40% more people working now.
So you brought in efficiency.
No, plus we increased the number of people.
Okay.
So it's not that we created a job cut. If you look at the Balco, it was 100,000 ton. Today, aluminum we are producing almost 1.5 million ton, 15 times more. If you look at the Sesagoa, which we bought in, it was a marginal asset.
Yeah.
Today, Sesagoa is the largest iron ore producer in the country. If you look at the cane, cane when we bought in, it was a marginal field, which was given away, and today is produced 30% oil of the country. So it shows, it's not me, that the entrusting the Indian entrepreneur and giving him the opportunity, they will deliver better. Hindustan Zinc, also same thing happened. Hindustan Zinc, we have done well, and government expected us to give more dividend.
The government asked you for a high dividend? Is that what happened?
No, they never asked, but I could see that they were expecting more dividend.
Because all PSUs, all public sector companies are giving, and the government still has about a 29% stake in EZL. So given what you're saying with what Indian entrepreneurs are able to do to turn around companies, it's rather unfortunate that because of a legal case, the government is not able to extract that kind of efficiency, that kind of money from Balco and EZL because of a pending legal case.
It will happen. It will happen. I think the courts are all very receptive. Without economic growth, nothing will happen.
Well, Balco is not a listed company, but have you got any signals from the government that they would have liked some share from Balco as well?
No, but I think they are in process. I don't know where exactly they are, but Balco, they have a 49%.
Yes.
And Hindustan Zinc, they have a 29%. And they have fairly done well. And as and when they are ready, they should do it. And as and when they are ready to disinvest, we will be looking to buy those shares.
Mr. Agarwal, you've also been creating news globally for your plans in private capacity to buy out Anglo-Indian. Can you share with us the latest update on that?
Yes. Anglo-American is 100 years old company. It is one of the largest company in the world for producing platinum, producing coal, producing
diamonds,
iron ore, and because De Beers.
Yes.
That's the and I got the opportunity to take 13% share of that company, because I also believe that the India and the Africa goes hand in hand. I was part of a delegation when Prime Minister Modi visited South Africa, and I could see there's a chemistry. So in the Africa and India, so I'm definitely looking the India to. We don't have a technology in the natural resource, and it's very important. This company, I have no other intention at the moment just to make an investor.
But why in your personal capacity? Why not from the listed company, from the Vedanta group? Why in your personal capacity?
It's my choice.
We do understand that the government has finally blessed the Kane Vedanta merger. The court has given its approval. Will there be, what is the next process? By when do you think the merger is going to finish? When will the integration take place?
It's a question of, I think, week or few days.
Well, that's Anil Agarwal there with his ambitions of creating one of the globe's biggest mining conglomerates and commodity firms, the kinds to take on Rio Tinto and ExxonMobil. I also caught up with another billionaire entrepreneur, Ajay Piramal. They say Ajay Piramal is perhaps India's most maverick investor, with everything he touches turning to gold. In fact, this is one of the few pharma companies in India that's not under the scanner of the US FDA. He was also on the Tata Sons board and had voted against Cyrus Mistry. I asked him how it felt to be caught in that bitter slugfest between Cyrus Mistry and Ratan Tata. Here's my interview with Ajay Piramal.
So for the record, we've had 25 US FDA inspections in the last few years across several plants that we have. We have many plants in India, we have plants in the US and in UK. And I can say till now, touch wood, we've not had a single hours of closure because of the US FDA. So to your answer that, to your question that why haven't we had it, I think what's really important is for us that we have always emphasized the importance of quality, and quality does not happen just by chance. It's a whole systematic process that takes place, whether it's in the way the equipment is laid out, whether it's in the way the reports and the quality is managed, the training that people have from top to bottom. I think that's the second thing. Thirdly, the organization of quality is actually very independently run. It reports directly to a board member, and the business is run independent of quality. So therefore, the quality has an authority to stop production without any fear.
We in India talk about, is the US FDA gunning for India, the politics behind all of these warning letters, import alerts, etc. So you don't seem to agree with that.
Yeah, I don't think there have been that the US FDA has been unnecessarily harsh over Indian plants. I think they do this across the board. And if you see some of the observations that they make for some of the FDA stoppages that they have done, these are all public, so there's nothing. Yeah. And you see that some of them are really strong reasons why they have done it. So it's not.
When you read the kind of statements that are coming out of the United States, what the president is talking about, particularly for the pharmaceutical industry, bringing down prices, manufacturing more in America, is it forcing companies like yours to reorganize plans, to rethink business plans?
So we've always had a global organization. We have several plants which are doing manufacturing in the US. In fact, in the last year, we spent about $350 million investing in the US in acquisition of plants. We have more than 2,000 people who are working in the US. So for us, I think we've always been global, and whatever is happening now with Mr. Trump's announcements, they're not going to affect us in any which way.
I just want to get your views on the Vodafone Idea merger. There's no one you don't know from both sides over there. It'll be interesting to get your thoughts on that, and it's something you've been associated with as well.
No, obviously, I think this is a reaction to what's happening in the marketplace. With the introduction of Jio, all the incumbents are feeling that here is a big giant which has come in the room, and they have to react, and therefore you see that Bharti is doing acquisitions, and Idea and Vodafone wanted to also do acquisitions, so that when they have size, they will and they'll be able to have a larger network on one side without any further investment, because they already, I think both of them are stretched for investment, and also it will help them bring down costs. I think this is it's really a reaction to what's happening to what's happening in the marketplace.
How many players do you think will be left with, 3 or 2?
I think I am not an expert in that, but I probably think there will be 3 players.
3 players that will be left. My final question to you, we don't get to interview you very often in Delhi. So when the entire Cyrus Mistry, Ratan Tata mess happened, you were of course on the Tata Sons board. How much time did you personally have to waste on all of the stuff that was happening? How was it for you personally?
It's not too much of time. I mean, you know, in boards when you are there, sometimes some things take a little longer, and then, you know, this is normal. It happens in any business. It'll happen in a board. So that's.
But was it difficult being in Bombay, being a part of, you know, one camp, and it had divided the business community?
I'm not in any camp other than the camp of the company. That's very clear. We only look at what is in the best interest as director of the company and its shareholders.
Budget 2017 has decided to now levy tax on trusts, and usually promoters hold their stake in companies via trust. I'm not just talking about Tata's, but even for Piramal enterprises. You know, are you going to have to, you know, maybe do some block deals? How is it going to change?
I think that's little misunderstood. Even earlier, it was in the last budget, if I'm not mistaken, that if you get dividends in excess of a certain amount, I've forgotten, you had to pay, you were levied another additional 10% tax. So that's the only thing. There was some ambiguity whether certain trusts were excluded or not. We always felt that you had to pay the tax even last year. So frankly, it's not been much.
Time now to bring you one of the most interesting panel discussions from the Economic Times Global Business Summit. It's on how best you can navigate your way through digital disruptions. One of the most topical themes and on the top of every CEO's mind. So we got some of the biggest global giants from the tech world under one roof to share their experiences.
I think that India right now, we say as goes India, so shall go the world. Why? Because it has the youngest population and it has a nascent consumer pattern of mobile first and only almost. So you have, if you're looking at a laboratory for what's going to happen in the future with young people, you have no further to look than India.
I would like to offer a different perspective. When we say disruption, that has unconscious bias. It's kind of the companies who are entrenched, who are big, they are going to get disrupted. But what if I say this is just part of evolution? What about if this is digital shift? Or a better word that we think is digital transformation. And so the perspective has to be different, and the best word I can come up with is the Chinese word, which is Weiji, which is crisis and opportunity at the same time. So I see this as an opportunity for our customers. I see this as a way to become globally successful, far more efficient, better customer experience, new demographics, and ability to create something you can't imagine today. Unexpected possibilities are possible. Technology is leapfrogging, 10x every 5 years. So 15 years, everything 1000x more powerful. 1000x more powerful in 15 years. This would lead to unexpected outcomes. I think that's where leadership has to think about.
The impact of digital is perhaps most visible in the Indian e-commerce space. We were just talking about digital markets there. Obviously, you're a success story, and we see more and more people adapt and adopt, shopping online, paying online. What do you think has fueled this? What do you think have been the enablers here?
So, thank you. Thanks for asking the question, by the way. In fact, I was going to come to it. I think in India, by the way, there are a few fundamental things that are going on. The first, by the way, is just mobile penetration. Right? India is a very mobile market. So Myntra, 80% of our revenues actually come from our app. And that, by the way, is going to leapfrog. So you talked about disruption and leapfrogging. We'll have 750 million phones by 2020, half of which will actually be smartphones. Right? So if you look at more than 55% of revenues coming from tier 2 towns, I could tell you a bunch of customer stories where people who don't have internet access all the time, intermittent internet access, still come and shop online because this is their view to the world. So mobile is one big one. I think the second is digital payments. I think we're going to just leapfrog credit cards. I think with the combination of Aadhaar and mobile penetration and a whole bunch of innovations that are happening now, I think that's the other thing that's going to dramatically change the way we work. The third, by the way, is at least at Myntra, I believe we're at an inflection point where this combination of AI, machine learning with the amount of data that we have is starting to transform how regular work happens. So one of the big things I keep talking about is just like you have driverless cars, can you actually have designerless fashion? And I think that's not far from reality. So I think all of these things, right, so mobile, digital payments, as well as I think AI, are the fundamental forces that are doing it.
Vaibhav, if I may throw this to you, you've been speaking to the government on a regular basis on Hyperloop, which is of course extremely disruptive as a means of public transport. Is India ready to embrace something as disruptive and revolutionary as that?
I think it's absolutely ready because you have a big need for an Hyperloop. I think, digital is actually allowing us as humanity to arrive at the point where humans that are the biggest threat that we have in, for example, safety for transportation can actually taken out of the equation. And India, I mean, guys, you drive like there's no tomorrow, okay? There's no doubt about it. But it's not only for that. It's because, you know, the density of population and the amount of innovation that you have in this country and the resources that are available are the perfect candidate to have a system like this. You likely have two choices. Is either going back to the 20th century and actually embrace technologies that we already know the outcome because they are very inefficient, like the high-speed rail, that will cost billions of dollars to all the population because it needs subsidies. So you will pay taxes for this. Or invest in something that brings the country to the 21st century, leapfrogging, without having to pass all the mistakes that we did in the past. And I think India is ready.
Quantum leap or digital transformation has to perhaps begin with the digital economy, and remonetization, I'm not even referring to demonetization anymore, has had a big role to play there?
Look, you know...
I mean, it was forced disruption, but perhaps disruption that's going to enable it.
If I was to ground it, there are 6 types of transactions we make. People to people, people to merchant, people to government, merchant to merchant, merchant to government, government to government. Where is the problem? The problem is in people to merchant and merchant to merchant. And why is there this problem? Because the merchant, and you know, we have 50 million SMEs, you know, MSMEs, of which the micro enterprises are 45 million, right? This is where a lot of India lives and in a lot of India interacts. And for them to switch to cashless is actually losing their business model, because they will have to pay tax, they'll have to comply, and they have to pay the money lender, whom Rana doesn't lend to these micro enterprises. His bank doesn't. It's the money lender. No. Excuse me. The point is that till those people can be taken out of the informal economy, they cannot go towards digitization and cashless. And if they can't, we will not, because that is the crux, the merchant to merchant and the people to merchant. And we need to get the formal sector to lend to them at normal rates and not at the 100% that the money lender charges. That is the problem. That is the problem.
Right. I'll get Mr. Kapoor to add to that.
The consultants are very different from
the consultants,
No, the practitioners need to go in and do the work there. The practitioners need to do the work there, Rana.
I love disagreements on a panel, but I'm going to just take this forward. Anand, you want to come in on this point that both Mr. Rana Kapoor and Janmejai Sinha made? They disagree on a few things, but they agree on one, that for digital to be successful, people have to be lured on to the digital network, right? How easy have you found this to happen?
If you look at e-commerce, right before demonetization, in Myntra, 60% was cash on delivery and 40% was some form of digital payment. Right? Credit cards were the most.
How has that changed?
So it's now become closer to 50-50. It used to, by the way, the first month of November, it shifted the other way. So it became 40-60, but it's sort of come back. In the e-commerce space, by the way, it's a different problem. I think, Flipkart invented this, right? The reason for cash on delivery, by the way, is that it's actually also a trust factor. So part of it is trust, part of it is the digital transaction. So what's now happened, by the way, is we still actually have the trust issue. So interestingly, by the way, a lot of our service delivery agents now carry point-of-sale machines. And the card on delivery, as opposed to cash on delivery, as a percentage has gone up. So I think it's not easy to change mindsets. I'm not talking about the unbanked sector. So for me, it's much more Sec A1 premium, mass premium sector. Even there, by the way, I think there's a mindset shift that needs to happen to say I'm getting more and more comfortable with it. Some part of it is failure rate. The other part of it is just doing business online. Right? And I think that will take time to change. This does give it an impetus though, so it has shifted.
So now you know how some of the biggest companies are navigating their way through digital disruption. With that, we're totally out of time, so we have to wrap up this special edition. Many thanks for watching. We'll be back next year with an even bigger Global Business Summit.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.